We'd been together for 18 years, nearly 2 decades of marriage, the kind where you think you know everything about each other. We weren't perfect. No couple is. But I believed we were solid. We built a life together. We raised two amazing kids, 15 and 17 now. We were a team. I thought we were best friends. Then, 2 weeks ago, everything changed. And it started with something so small, just me talking about an advice column I'd read. It was about infidelity, about rebuilding trust after betrayal. I brought it up casually like you talk about the weather. I wasn't accusing or hinting. I just thought it was an interesting read. But as I spoke, I noticed something strange. My wife's face changed. She tried to hide it, but I saw the tears welling up. Her hands trembled slightly, and in that moment I felt my stomach sink. I asked, gently, "What's wrong?" And that's when she said it, the words that would tear everything apart. She confessed that 7 years ago she cheated on me. Not once, but twice. It was with a coworker during a business trip. The first time, she said, it was a drunken mistake. The second time, she caved to temptation again. After that, guilt consumed her, and she left that job, telling me it was because it wasn't a good fit. But now I know it was because she couldn't bear working with him anymore. She said she'd been carrying this guilt for years, and talking about that advice column broke something in her. She couldn't keep the secret anymore. And as she spoke, I felt my heart break into pieces. 18 years together. And for 7 of those years, she'd let me live a lie. After her confession, I don't even remember what I said. Or if I said anything at all, I just sat there, stunned. My mind kept racing through our life. Birthdays, anniversaries, lazy Sundays with the kids. Trying to fit this ugly truth into the picture. And it wouldn't fit, she cried. Begged. Said it meant nothing. That she was weak. That she hated herself for it. That she'd never done anything like it before or since. That the guilt was killing her. And the worst part? I believed her. I believed the guilt was real. I believed she hated what she'd done. But none of that changed the fact that she had done it. That she'd looked me in the eye day after day, year after year, and let me believe we were something we weren't. For the next few days, we tried to talk. The kids were at school, so we had time. Time that felt endless and hollow. We went around in circles. She kept saying she was sorry. I kept saying I didn't know how to forgive. And that was the truth. I didn't. I couldn't imagine ever looking at her the same way again. It's strange what betrayal does to you. I still loved her. That didn't disappear overnight. But every glance, every word, every memory felt poisoned now. I'd wake up in the middle of the night, heart racing, replaying those moments, wondering how I missed the signs, wondering what else I didn't know. And through it all, I kept thinking about our kids, about how this would destroy them, about how their world would be ripped apart because of choices they didn't make. That's what tore me up the most. But deep down, I knew. I couldn't stay. I couldn't pretend. For my own sanity, for my own dignity, I had to go. No parent ever wants to sit their children down and tell them their world is about to change forever. But I knew we had to. I couldn't bear the idea of lying to them, stringing them along, only for them to sense the tension or overhear the wrong conversation. They deserved honesty, as much as we could give them without shattering their hearts completely. So we waited until a Friday evening when school was done for the week. We sat them down in the living room. My wife and I, side by side, though the distance between us felt like miles. Our daughter, 15, immediately sensed something was wrong. Our son, 17, just looked confused, worried. I took a deep breath, tried to keep my voice steady, and told them. We explained that their mother and I had decided to separate. That sometimes, even when people love each other, things happen that can't be fixed. We said it was mutual. We promised them it wasn't about them. That we both loved them more than anything. That nothing would change that. But then, the guilt overwhelmed her, my wife. She couldn't hold it together. The tears came, and before I could stop her, she blurted it out. that she had betrayed me, that she was the reason we couldn't stay together, that it was all her fault. The room fell silent. For a moment I thought maybe, just maybe, the truth would set things right. But it didn't. My daughter burst into tears. My son's face hardened. And then came the words that will haunt me forever. "Dad, how could you do this? Why can't you forgive her?" They saw their mother as the victim, the one who was broken and sorry. And me? I was the villain. The man tearing the family apart because I couldn't let go of the past. No matter what I said, no matter how I tried to explain that I wasn't trying to punish their mom, that I just couldn't live a lie, it didn't matter. They had made up their minds. And in that moment, I felt more alone than I ever had in my life. That night was one of the longest of my life. After we told them, the kids shut down. Our daughter went to her room and slammed the door. Our son sat on the couch staring at the floor like he was trying to make sense of it all, but I could see the anger bubbling up inside him. Anger directed at me. I tried to talk to him. I tried to explain, carefully, gently, that this wasn't about punishment, that I wasn't trying to hurt his mother, that I still respected her as the mother of my children. But how do you explain something like that to a teenager who sees their family crumbling before their eyes? Every word I said seemed to make things worse. He stood up, his fists clenched at his sides, and said, "You're ruining everything. Why can't you just forgive her? Why can't you just let it go so we can be a family again?" And what could I say to that? I wanted to. God, I wanted to, but I couldn't. I couldn't unsee what I knew. I couldn't pretend everything was okay. Living a lie would have destroyed me slowly. And I knew it. Over the next few days, it got harder. They started pulling away, refusing to sit with me at dinner, speaking to me in short, cold sentences. Every time their mother cried, and she cried a lot, they wrapped themselves around her like protectors. She kept trying to take the blame, but it backfired. The more she tried to own what she did, the more they pitied her and hated me. I suggested therapy, family counseling, anything to help us talk this through, but they wouldn't hear of it. They said I was the one who needed to change, that I was the one tearing the family apart. And the idea of seeing me after I moved out, they didn't want it. Not right now, maybe not ever. I never imagined I'd be in this position, fighting for a place in my own children's hearts when I was the one who'd been betrayed. But here I am. There's a moment in every heartbreak where you stop fighting what you can't change. I reached that moment in the quiet of the night, lying awake, listening to the soft sounds of my family sleeping, a family I no longer truly felt part of. I realized that staying, trying to force something that was broken, wasn't helping anyone. It wasn't healing me. It wasn't making the kids feel better. It was just prolonging the agony. I had to leave, not because I wanted to. God knows I didn't. I wanted to stay. I wanted to fix it all. But I couldn't keep losing myself trying to hold together something that had already fallen apart. So I told her. I said I'd start looking for a place. I said I'd make sure the kids were okay, that we'd figure out the logistics together. She cried, of course. She begged me to reconsider, said she'd do anything. But the truth was, there was nothing left to say. The damage was done. The trust was gone. I wasn't angry anymore, just empty, numb. And then came the hardest part. Telling the kids I was moving out. I kept it simple. I told them I loved them, that I'd always be their dad, that I wanted to see them as much as possible. But their faces told me everything. My daughter sobbed. My son looked at me with cold disappointment. "You're just giving up," he said. "You're breaking up our family." It cut deeper than I can explain, because in their eyes, I was the villain. And no matter how many times I said this wasn't what I wanted, that I was only trying to find peace, to be the best father I could be from a place of honesty, they couldn't see it. My wife didn't help, not because she meant harm, but because her own grief blinded her. Every tear she shed made them cling to her harder, see her as the victim of my decision, and I didn't have the heart to correct them, I wouldn't drag her through the mud to save myself, so I started packing my things, quietly, carefully, and with every box I sealed, I felt a little piece of my old life slip away. The day I moved into my new apartment was one of the quietest of my life. No kids shouting, no dog barking, no familiar creak of the stairs, just the echo of my own footsteps across empty floors. I stood there, surrounded by boxes, and felt the weight of everything I'd left behind. I had pictured this moment so many times during those endless, painful nights at home, the moment I'd finally have peace. But now that it was here, all I felt was hollow. The walls felt cold. The silence felt heavy. Every corner of that apartment seemed to whisper memories of what I'd lost. The family dinners, the laughter, the lazy Sunday mornings. That first night, I lay on a mattress on the floor, staring at the ceiling. I tried not to think about what they were doing back home, whether my kids were asking about me, whether they missed me at all. But the questions came anyway. And with them, the ache. The kind that starts in your chest and spreads everywhere. The days that followed weren't much easier. I texted the kids, tried calling, left messages reminding them I loved them, that I was here whenever they were ready. Sometimes they'd reply, short, polite responses that felt like they were written out of obligation more than love. Sometimes there was nothing. And every time my phone stayed silent, I felt another piece of my heart crack. I didn't blame them. They were confused, hurt, angry. I knew that, but it didn't make it any easier. I focused on what I could control. I unpacked. I went to work. I tried to build a routine. I tried to remember who I was before all this. The man who could stand on his own, who didn't define himself by the walls of a house or the weight of a broken marriage. And little by little, I began to see that maybe, just maybe, this empty space wasn't the end. Maybe it was the beginning of something I hadn't even imagined yet. There's a strange thing that happens after your world collapses. At first, you think the pain will crush you, that every breath will feel heavy forever, that the loneliness will swallow you whole. But then, something shifts, slowly, quietly, almost without you realizing it. That's what began happening to me in those first few weeks alone. I started seeing the truth I hadn't wanted to face, not just about my wife's betrayal, but about myself. About how much of my identity I'd tied to being a husband, a provider, a father, under one roof. About how I'd given and given, all in the name of holding the family together, while quietly losing parts of myself along the way. The betrayal, it hurt. God, it hurt more than I can put into words, but it opened my eyes too. I saw how blind I'd been, how I'd ignored little red flags, how I'd accepted excuses that didn't add up because I wanted so badly to believe in us. And I realized that my mistake wasn't in loving her. My mistake was in forgetting to love myself in the process. I thought about all those nights I stayed late at work, trying to give us a better life. All the times I let things slide, told myself it wasn't worth the argument, because peace mattered more. And now I saw that real peace starts inside you, not in sacrificing yourself for someone who doesn't value what you give. Little by little, I began rebuilding. I went for walks after work. No destination, just time to clear my head. I started cooking simple meals, not out of obligation, but because it felt good to take care of myself. I picked up a book I'd been meaning to read for years. I called an old friend I hadn't spoken to in ages, and in those small moments I felt it, the quiet return of strength. The reminder that I am more than what happened to me, that I can stand on my own, that healing doesn't mean forgetting, it means learning. And I was ready to keep learning, one day at a time. If you'd asked me at the start of all this what would hurt the most, I would have said the betrayal, the loss of trust, the end of my marriage. But the truth? The part that kept me awake at night wasn't what she did. It was what came after, the distance growing between me and my children. I had always been a hands-on dad. I was there for the soccer games, the school plays, the late-night talks about life. I thought I'd built something unbreakable with them. But this broke it in ways I never saw coming. I tried. God knows I tried. I called. I texted. I offered to take them out. Dinner, a movie, anything. Sometimes they said yes, but it was different. The conversations felt forced. The warmth we used to share wasn't there. My daughter barely spoke, except in short answers. My son? He kept looking at me like I was the one who'd caused all this, like I was the one who'd betrayed our family. I wanted to explain, To tell them that walking away wasn't about giving up. It was about saving what was left of my sanity, my self-respect. But how do you tell that to teenagers who only see the pain of the present, who can't understand the weight of years of deception? And the hardest part, I wouldn't badmouth their mother. I wouldn't drag her through the mud, no matter how much it might have helped them see my side. Because no matter what she did to me, she was still their mom. And they needed to be able to love her without guilt. So I kept reaching out, kept showing up. I told myself, this will take time. They need space to process this, just like I do. And maybe, one day, they'll see that I didn't walk away from them. I walked away from a lie. And I did it because I want better, for them and for me. Until then, I wait. I hope. I keep my door open. When you go through something like this, people are quick to give advice. You'll heal with time. Focus on the positive. At least you found out. And while I know they mean well, the truth is, nothing prepares you for the quiet moments. The moments when it's just you, the silence and the weight of everything that's happened. But in those moments, I started seeing things more clearly than I ever had before. I learned that trust, real trust, isn't something you give away lightly. I used to believe that love meant giving someone all of you without question. That when you married, you handed over your heart completely. But now I see love needs boundaries. Love needs balance. You can give your heart to someone, but you have to keep a piece for yourself, to protect, to nourish, to stay whole no matter what happens. I also learned who my friends really are. There were people who stood by me, quietly checking in, offering a meal, an ear, a place to vent without judgment. And there were people who disappeared, too uncomfortable with the messiness of it all. I don't blame them. This kind of pain scares people. But I see things differently now. I know who I can count on. And strangely, I learned to like myself more. That might sound odd after everything. But for the first time in years, I started asking myself, what do I want? What makes me happy? Not what will make her happy, or what will hold this family together at all costs. Just me. I started small, a morning walk, just because. Music I liked. Cooking meals I wanted to try, even if no one else was there to eat them. I stopped waiting for permission to live my own life, and as painful as it's been, I'm grateful for that. Because this loss, this betrayal, it broke me open. And in that brokenness, I found a strength I didn't know I had. If you'd told me at the start of all this that I'd ever feel anything but heartbreak, I wouldn't have believed you. When your world falls apart, it's hard to imagine anything beyond the wreckage. But here I am, standing in what feels like the first steps of something new. I won't pretend I have it all figured out. I don't. The future still feels uncertain. My kids are still hurting, still pulling away. And I know that rebuilding their trust will take time. Maybe longer than I want. And that's okay. Because I'm learning that healing doesn't follow a schedule. It happens in its own time, in its own way. There are still nights when the silence of my apartment feels too loud. When I miss the familiar chaos of family life. When I wonder if I could have done anything to change how this all played out. But more and more, those nights are balanced by mornings where I wake up and feel light. Not happy exactly, but at peace with my choice. Proud that I chose honesty over pretending. Proud that I chose my self-respect, even when it cost me so much. I don't know if my kids will ever fully understand. I hope that, one day, when they're older, they'll look back and see that I didn't walk away from them. I walked away from a lie, because I wanted something better for all of us. And as for me, I'm still here, still standing. And that counts for something. I'm finding joy in small things. A good meal, a quiet walk, a conversation with an old friend. I'm learning that being alone isn't the same as being lonely. That there's strength in starting over. So here's what I know. The road ahead won't be easy, but it's mine. And step by step, I'll walk it. Not with bitterness, but with hope. Hope that I'll keep growing. Hope that my kids will come back to me in time. Hope that even after everything, life still has beautiful things waiting for me. And maybe, just maybe, it does.